The Resident Evil franchise is one of the most iconic survival horror series of all time. From its terrifying roots in the Spencer Mansion to the tense battles against bioweapons in Raccoon City, it revolutionized horror gaming. But in 2012, something controversial happened. Resident Evil 6 was Capcom's grandest, most ambitious entry yet. Despite its financial success, selling millions of copies, and outperforming previous entries in the series, it became one of the most divisive games in the franchise. Critics and players alike slammed it, calling it a failure and a disaster. But why? Was it truly a failure? Or was the backlash overblown? Let's dive deep into Resident Evil 6 and uncover the truth behind the hate.
Resident Evil 6.
To understand the criticism, we need to go back to the expectations surrounding Resident Evil 6. By 2012, the franchise had already evolved beyond pure survival horror. Resident Evil 4 was a masterpiece that perfectly balanced horror and action. But RE5 pushed the action elements further, frustrating some longtime fans. So when Capcom announced RE6, they promised a game that would appeal to everyone: horror fans, action fans, and newcomers. Instead of embracing just one direction, they created four different campaigns, each with a unique style. And it resulted in a game that was unfairly judged as inconsistent, when in reality, it was ambitious and packed with content. And here's something that needs to be said right away: 80% of the people complaining about Resident Evil 6 haven't even completed the game.
Resident Evil 6 is an incredibly notorious entry in the RE franchise. I've tried completing it in the past before, but prior to today, I never actually did so.
That's right. A huge portion of the criticism comes from people who barely made it through the first few hours. Yet they act like experts on the entire experience. If you haven't even played the full game, you don't get to act like your opinion is the ultimate truth. It feels like some people try really hard not to like this game, as if calling it trash makes them some kind of expert critic who can see through the lies of AAA gaming. But here's the truth: RE6 is content rich, with 4 full campaigns, a sick mercenary mode, and tons of extras. The combat is insanely fun, with rolling, sliding, countering, and suplexing enemies, making the game feel like a wild action movie. Let's set the stage. It's 2009, Capcom is rolling in cash after the massive success of RE5, a game that had already shifted the series into the action territory. Then they decide to go all in with Resident Evil 6, a massive global story starring the franchise's biggest legacy characters, 4 linked campaigns that crisscross like RE2 but on a much bigger scale, a new viral outbreak that threatens the whole world, full co-op gameplay, massive set pieces, and the most fluid melee combat in the series. Capcom pulled together a development team of over 600 people, the largest in the company history at that time. And it shows. The graphics were phenomenal for the PS3 and 360 era. The animations were fluid, the combat was tight, and the enemy variety was insane. The gameplay was diverse, taking us from zombie outbreaks in America to high-speed chases in China, to fistfights above molten lava, and yet people still hate this game. It seems like nothing makes people happy these days. When a game like Black Myth Wukong drops, everyone is quick to demand more diversity in gaming. But the moment they get a game with varied settings, unique characters, and a fresh approach like RE6, they complain that it's straying from its roots. It is frustrating double standard. People ask for innovation, but when they get it, they criticize it for not being the same as what came before. One of the biggest criticisms of RE6 was its departure from traditional survival horror. But that wasn't the case. Each campaign played differently. Leon's was slower and more atmospheric, evoking classic survival horror. Chris' one was intense and action heavy, leaning full into military style combat. Jake's introduced hand to hand combat, making it feel fresh and dynamic. Ada's campaign was stealthy and mysterious, adding variety to the experience. Instead of lacking direction, the game offered variety, catering to different playstyles. Yes, RE6 had over the top action sequences. But let's be honest, so did RE4 and RE5. People praised Leon roundhouse kicking zombies in RE4, but suddenly had a problem when he was surviving a plane crash in RE6. The series was already evolving. The game still had a horror, especially in Leon's campaign, which featured dark corridors, airy environments, and classic zombies. The real problem wasn't the game, it was that people had an outdated idea of what Resident Evil should be. However, beneath all the explosions and intense set pieces was a story filled with deep character moments, emotional weight, and meaningful relationships. The game didn't just throw together a plot for the sake of it, it gave us some of the most memorable character arcs in the series. Leon Kennedy and Ada Wong have one of the most complex relationships in Resident Evil history, and RE6 added even more layers to their dynamic. Leon is the classic hero, always trying to do the right thing, always ready to save those in need. Ada, on the other hand, is a mystery who never fully reveals her true intentions. But despite everything, there's an undeniable connection between them. One of the most playful moments happen when Ada hands Leon a ring, prompting him to ask, "A ring?" To which Ada quickly replies, "Don't get the wrong idea." It's a cheeky exchange that almost feels like an engagement joke, teasing the idea of a what if scenario between them. While their relationships remain complicated, RE6 showcases just how much they understand and rely on each other, even if Ada always keeps Leon at arm's length. Then we have Jake Muller and Sherry Birkin, two characters with completely different backgrounds, forced together by fate. Jake, the rebellious mercenary with a chip on his shoulder, and Sherry, the kind hearted government agent with a tragic past. At first, they clash. Jake is clinical, sarcastic, and all about survival, while Sherry still believes in the greater good. But as their story unfolds, we see their walls start to break down. One of the best moments? When they change clothes in the locker room as Sherry casually switches outfits, Jake sneaks a glance and quickly looks away blushing. A rare moment of vulnerability from the usually cocky mercenary. Their dynamic is filled with humor, tension, and eventual trust, making their story one of the most endearing in the game. Moving on, thanks to this game, we also have the amazing duo of Chris Redfield and Pierce. Their story is one of duty, sacrifice, and brotherhood. Pierce isn't just another BSAA soldier. He is Chris' right hand man, someone who believes in him even when Chris himself struggles with doubt and guilt. Their campaign isn't just about fighting bioweapons, it's about leadership and the toll of war. And then there's the devastating ending. Pierce, knowing there's no other way, sacrifices himself to save Chris, injecting himself with the virus so he can ensure Chris survives. It's one of the most heartbreaking moments in Resident Evil history, a selfless act that gives Chris a reason to keep going. This wasn't just an action game, it was a game that delivered real emotional stakes. Now, you guys might be wondering why I am telling you all this about the stories in different campaigns. It is because I want to let you guys know that this game isn't just mindless action like people say, it actually has a great story. I would also like to talk about the action part here. I don't really get it why people hate on the action part. The action and the gameplay was awesome. Like if the execution was bad, then sure, we could criticize it. But right now, this is straight up rage bait.
This is what I hate. Is because people hate on Resident Evil 6 because Resident Evil 6 starts off similarly. They're like, there's too much action. Go back and watch and oh Jesus Lord, here comes this guy. Everybody's like, Resident Evil 6 has too much action, that's bullshit. It's too much like a Michael Bay film. We need to go back to the originals. And then Resident Evil 1 and 2 are the same shit with bombs and explosions and car crashes. And everybody's like, yeah, this shit's good. This shit's horror. Like, get the fuck out of here. Resident Evil 6 is good.
Now, as an honest reviewer, I will also point out the few flaws RE6 has. And those are mainly in the story. First up, it's Jake Muller connection to Wesker. I feel that it is a huge missed opportunity. Up until his encounter with Chris, Jake doesn't even care about his father at all. He acknowledges it, but it means nothing to him. However, when he finds out that Chris Redfield is the man who killed Albert Wesker, he suddenly gets angry and even pulls a gun on him. It doesn't make any sense. Why would he care now when he didn't before? Maybe Jake was just a strong guy who was hiding his emotions all along, but the game never explores this. His reaction comes and goes without any deeper character development, leaving what could have been an interesting arc feeling hollow. Then there is Derek Simons, easily one of the weakest villains in the franchise. His entire motivation is his creepy obsession with Ada Wong, and when she rejects him, he basically unleashes a global bioterror attack out of spite. Compared to villains like Wesker, who had grand ambitions, or William Birkin, whose downfall was tragic, Simon just feels shallow. He could have been a master manipulator using his political power to drive the plot, but instead, he is just a one note cartoonish villain. These story issues, however, don't ruin Resident Evil 6, but they do stand out in an otherwise fantastic game. Looking back, RE6 wasn't the failure some claim it to be. It was bold, ambitious, and packed with content. While some criticize its action heavy approach, they ignored its deep character moments, emotional storytelling, and variety of gameplay. The hate was never truly justified, it was just loud. But for those who actually played it and paid attention, Resident Evil 6 was an unforgettable experience. So, haters, you can hate it all you want, but me, I had the time of my life playing this game. And if the next Resident Evil game can deliver even half of the chaotic fun RE6 did, I will be there. Also, to the 20 viewers who have stuck around till this point, I just want to say a huge thank you. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Resident Evil 6, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel and share this video with your friends. It really helps out a lot and keeps me motivated to bring you more content like this. This video took over 10 hours of effort to research, write, and edit. So, your support truly means the world to me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree, disagree, or do you have any other takes on the game? I would love to hear them. See you in the next video. Till then, peace out.